think they did. We saw the Speaker's ruling. It was a fairly long ruling, it was a fairly involved ruling. He didn't actually find that Mark Warwa's privileges had been breached, but he did allow that if members started standing up during statements by members, he would maybe be compelled to recognize them. Now, the day after that, we didn't see any of that. Mark Warwa threatened that he might stand up and try to speak out of order, and the government reacted by quickly putting him on the list. In that sense, I think he won in a bit of a stare down with the government, and I think on the larger point, the government backbench won a key ruling from the Speaker. They now know, and they now have, with the Speaker's say-so, that they can stand up whenever they want, and if they aren't being given the chance to speak, they will have a chance to speak. They now have a bit of the power that previously the whips had, and this has all along been about that. This has been about trying to restore the balance in power between the backbench and the government leadership and the party leadership. And so even if we don't see MPs bobbing up and down over the next few days, even if we don't see mass revolt on the backbench, they've won a very key moment here in rebalancing that power.
I'm interested in the ad that we haven't seen yet. Now, obviously, we had the widely discussed Tory attack on Justin Trudeau, pretty much true to form, the way that the Conservatives have rolled on these ads, trying to make him look like a goofball. We had Trudeau's reaction, him presenting himself as the sort of cool classroom teacher, calm and collected at the front of a room. But we haven't seen Tom Mulcair yet in this latest round. I'm told that the NDP is testing and cutting an ad around the theme of leadership and experience. And probably it'll try to do two things. One, sort of soften the edges a bit on Mulcair's persona, show him as a human being, not just as a politician, but also underscore the fact that he has spent many years in public life. He was a cabinet minister in Quebec and that sort of thing. In a way, the NDP has the toughest challenge of all in these ads. The Tories know what they want to do, which is attack a new leader, try to define him before he can define himself. The Liberals knew that was coming, and they knew that they would have to come back with something that tried to rise above that battle rather than getting into a pitched combat with the Conservatives. The NDP is trying to do something much more subtle, which is just nudge their guy's reputation in a new direction, just kind of flesh out a public impression that's been gradually taking hold over the last year or so. So they're trying to do something that really political ads are not very good at doing, which is nuance. So we'll see how well they do at it. Likely they're taking on a task that's probably impossible to succeed at entirely, and the bar they're setting for themselves is awful high. It's can we kind of make people think carefully about something rather than just reacting in some kind of visceral way.
The House right now is not debating a comprehensive government package or legislative agenda. It seems like the decks are pretty bare, and that's because for all the talk about the Economic Action Plan that was contained in Budget 2013, the Conservatives haven't brought any legislation to implement that plan yet. So there's this kind of void right now that they're filling by talking about a lot of things they tend to talk about and have for the last 7 years, law and order legislation, including a few private members' bills, one which would make it harder for violent criminals to gain parole, for example. The government's expressed support for that. But the opposition is asking about a lot of secondary issues, maybe not secondary issues, that might be a bit insulting, but talking about things like youth unemployment and talking about EI reform here and there. And I mean, they're valuable things to debate in Parliament, but they're not a comprehensive agenda. That will all end, of course, when the government does table its first budget implementation bill. And as we know, those have been controversial of late, particularly last year when the government tabled 2 omnibus bills that culminated in part in the Adel No More protest movement that gained quite a bit of attention, especially for Aboriginal issues, of course. So we'll see what happens as the legislative agenda is rolled out in that regard.